The United States is urging more Pacific countries and China to join its coalition to address synthetic drug threats. Lisa A. Johnson is the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs in the Department of State. Ms. Johnson says synthetic drug threats are a global problem that requires a global solution, urging more Pacific countries and China to join and help combat the growing threats in the region. Koroi Hawkins spoke with Ms. Johnson, who was in New Zealand this week, attending the International Association of Women Police Conference. He began by asking her about the importance of having more women in law enforcement in the Pacific.
Why we think it's so important to have women in meaningful participation in police forces, especially in leadership roles, is that research has shown it increases reporting of crime. Women bring a lot of diverse experiences to policing. They build trust and rapport with communities. They help us develop a more comprehensive strategy to address crime, especially victim assistance in the areas of sexual and domestic violence. And really, it just improves the effectiveness of the police response across the force. But guess what? Only 15% of the world's police officers are female. So we are really trying to change that and improve the recruitment, retention, and promotion of women in police, where they just serve as role models for young girls who look at this and say, hey, this career is attainable to me no matter what my gender. And as we increase female participation in the police, we really see it breaks down gender stereotypes and promotes more inclusive policing and societies in general. So that's what I was here to do, and you can tell I'm still on a high from the earlier part of the week. The second part of my trip was to come and talk to officials in the New Zealand government, because the United States is starting to increase our presence and engagement with partners in the Pacific Island countries, which is really exciting. And I'll be going to Fiji, to Suva on Sunday night.
Turning now to an area you know a lot about, and something that we've been following in the Pacific with narcotics in the region, in terms of not just the Pacific sort of drug highway in terms of the movement of drugs, but we're also seeing a lot more bleed of the narcotics into actual local markets in the Pacific Islands, which is a concern. What is the US doing in this space? Are you seeing what we're reporting in media? Is it worse? Is the situation escalating?
It's very unfortunate in general. You've already identified two of the biggest problems. One is the Pacific Island countries being on transshipment routes from both Southeast Asia, methamphetamine and cocaine from Latin America, to lucrative markets in New Zealand and in Australia. But also, transshipment countries always end up as destination countries. It's something we have seen around the world. And so communities in the Pacific Islands will be more and more affected as people become users. And really, the community harm will increase. So it's something we want to get on top of as early as we can. We are looking at how to provide additional assistance to Pacific Island countries in the counter-narcotics space. Just last week, we actually funded a United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime training course, a regional training course that took place in Fiji for about 6 or 7 different Pacific Island countries, specifically looking at the issues of synthetic drugs and precursor chemicals that go into those synthetic drugs. And that has been a threat that really, it's a global problem that's going to require a global solution. The United States has created a global coalition to address synthetic drug threats. There was a ministerial meeting last summer in the Americas time, but then also a meeting on the margins of the UN General Assembly just earlier this week. Fiji is a member of the global coalition, as is New Zealand and Australia, but we really would like additional countries to join that global coalition. It's a place where we're going to be sharing best practices in how to address synthetic drug threats and the harm that they cause to communities. What are the best practices in treatment and rehabilitation in those spaces as well? So that's another area where we can collaborate.
As part of the U.S. re-engagement with the Pacific, we've seen a few security agreements signed, some shipwright agreements, for example, in Papua New Guinea. Is any of that resource and that infrastructure and that going to be employed in this space?
Absolutely. We are looking to increase our partnerships with Pacific Island countries. That's part of why I'm here, because we want to do that in all different sectors. I mean, there are parts of the U.S. government who are engaged in other areas of development and climate and resilience issues. And my specific area is law enforcement and criminal justice systems. And the United States believes in general that the world is just a more safe, secure, and peaceful place when criminal justice systems in every country function well and provide access to justice for all of their citizens. So that's what we would hope to build with our partnerships in the Pacific Island countries to help strengthen their capacity to do those things. And we're looking to cooperate in a number of areas, but I've been told it's the Pacific way. I mean, in consultation, in collaboration, in discussing with them what are their needs, what do they want, and what we have heard so far, the conversation is continuing, but help in maritime law enforcement because of threats, things like illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing, which goes to the issue of livelihoods for people who live in the Pacific Islands, the drug transshipment that we heard about, the drugs that can cause harm in communities. There's also an interest in general rule of law and combating transnational organized crime, different kinds of trafficking of people, cybercrime. These things are affecting all countries in the world, and we want to help bring some ideas and best practices that can be adapted to the needs and the ways of the people who live in the Pacific Islands.